Good morning.
What?
Welcome to the penultimate meeting of Ed Tepper as president.
You'll notice there's no applause.
Yeah. Good. Let's see. Let's start off with, well, welcome to everybody. We do have two guests here in the room and one who tried to get in on Zoom and probably had some connection problems and dropped off. Hopefully she'll come back on, but guest Milt, why don't you introduce yourself to the group and tell us a little bit about your photography side?
I'm Milt Burton and been taking pictures for a very long time. Right here kind of gives that impression anyway. But had digital cameras since they first started coming out, I guess. But I've never really learned how to use digital cameras as well as I did the old film cameras and the old single lens reflex. In any event, taking a lot of pictures and looking to get better, bought a new camera last summer and hoping to be able to use it well.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of people here of all different ranges of experience and we're really friendly groups. So I think if you decide to join,
Thank you.
you'll one, I know will benefit from your past experience, and two, I know you'll benefit from ours. Ron, go for it.
My name is Ron Mayer, and I've been taking pictures a long time. Never really felt like I was taking quality photographs. And then actually I retired and decided I'm going to take a class, and that's how I found Ed. I've been in one of his, actually I'm in his second class now. And so yeah, here I am. I'm just trying to get some pointers on especially composition. And so I thought, well, be around people who have done it longer than me, or all learn from each other. So,
I have a question. Did Ed pay you for the?
told me I had to pay you.
Well, welcome in, Vera. I'm glad you're able to make it back. Vera is
Yes.
On Zoom, so welcome, Vera. Tony, tell us a little bit about your photography self.
Well, as the previous speaker said, I'm continuing to try to improve my craft. So I've taken plenty of classes and I'm currently in Ed's class right now over at the Chesterfield Technical Center. So I'm just here gathering information.
Okay, well, welcome.
Welcome.
Everybody. And let's see, before we get on for the business of the day, let's see, do we have any now? I mean, do we want to talk about what we talked about for next month's meeting? Nancy, I guess, is having a little bit of a problem. She's not here. But we've been bouncing around the officers about just having a little bit of social get together next month. Bring your photos in, we'll share them, we'll talk. Club will provide some light refreshments. Well, unfortunately, non-alcoholic. You'll have to do that yourself. And we'll just have some fun and celebrate the election of the new board that we'll be finalizing in a second. Anybody else? MJ, you want to say anything?
Well, my usual begging for images and stories for the newsletter. Some folks have already sent some images and stories, and that's great, but the more the merrier. I really need them. If the new folks, our guests, excuse me, will send me their email address, I will send you a copy of last month's newsletter. So you can know.
Yeah, I think, I sent a newsletter to Ryan there. I don't
you
think I
do?
sent you. After I sent you back the email, I said, well, I should have sent you the newsletter. Yeah, I'll make sure,
Is
and
it
I'll
on-
make sure you have their.
Is it online?
Sorry?
Is it online on the website?
Yes.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have it on-
yeah.
on-
I think it's not, it goes up on the website. Well, I'll get to the votes in a second. Okay. Camp, you have anything you want to talk about? Anybody else? No. Peter, you're up there.
Yep, nothing.
Okay, Ray?
The only, good morning to all and definitely welcome to the guests. Hope they'll be joining us as members. And the only thing, I guess, when it becomes time or on the agenda for today is to finalize what donations we're going to make for the year. And that's all I have.
All right, well, you want to talk about that now?
Oh, sure. I guess, MJ, you can kind of chime in, but I guess we said we're going to do a donation to the Central Virginia Food Bank. And we talked about $100 for them. Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. Basically, I think we're leaning not to make a donation to them since they're get some public funding and plus have a lot of big time donors. So they donors. So I think we're saying they don't need our little dribblings of help. Louis Ginter, that was kind of out. I don't know how we're leaning on that. I don't know if they have big time donors and we don't need our pennies or we should leave them in. And the bigger one that seemed to have some thoughts, and that's Friends of the James. One of our speakers is involved in that, and we all have taken a lot of pictures on the James.
What was that? Oh, James?
Yeah, the
Friends
James
of-
River.
James River Association or Friends of the James, they're different organizations.
It was the name that I was given, or here it was Friends of the James.
Okay, they're both really good organizations.
Okay. But not one and the same, I'm assuming.
They're different. James River organization and Friends of the James are two different organizations.
I see.
They're both very good organizations.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
discussion, yes.
I had volunteered to follow up about school programs, and we were robust on.
Yeah, I was going to follow up
Do
with
you want me to
Chesterfield.
follow through with Chesterfield?
Sure, you can do that. Yeah, I forgot to do that.
Talk about making a contribution to the photography program.
Yeah, I
in
think,
public school.
I'm pretty sure that Chesterfield, this is not the adult ed, but this is Chesterfield, they have programs for either middle school, high school students, you know, they come in and they,
I think so.
you know, it's, from what I saw last year, they were in the same room that I was teaching in last year. And it was, my mind was blown. It was just,
That's good, yeah, that's digital art.
Yeah. okay.
Okay,
So,
I think it's a good idea. Can we vote on it? At least to make sure it's taken care of if Anita can find the right program.
okay, so somebody wants to make or put forth a motion for the donations.
Was there any ballpark dollar number we were looking
Well, I
at?
think we're talking about like, you know, $50 or something. Ray, you have any other thoughts on that?
No, well, yeah, $50 would be good on some of them. I think we say the budget is $215. However, since we haven't been doing a lot of things that cost us during the pandemic and everything, we we're a richer club than we've ever been. Now, let me just say that.
Yeah, but we don't have to dump it all on.
We're a rich poor club.
We're gonna roll it over into next year. I'm sure Peter will find a good use for it.
Yeah, oh, yeah, sure.
All right, so we have Friends of the James,
$50.
Lewis Ginter, and possibly Chesterfield school system for up to a total of $200 to be spread amongst
Where
the
did
three.
Feedmore go?
Oh, Feedmore, I'm sorry. So we have Feedmore,
It's Central Virginia Food Bank,
oh, sorry, Central Virginia Food.
which also does Feedmore. They're kind of a,
Yeah, they're different also, they're another.
Yeah.
organization. So Central Virginia Food Bank, who we've given to several years in a row. Lewis Skinner, Chesterfield, and was there another one? The Friends of James?
yes,
Or James? Yeah, okay. So for a total to be spread over all those, either all those organizations or a subsect of those organizations, a total of no more than $200 to be donated. Is that a good motion?
Maybe we could back out again, sure, they have, I mean, the others seem to be.
Okay,
I mean, that's just my thought, but,
Actually, that's what I was gonna suggest.
It's gonna have a lot of money.
Yeah,
so 100 for the food bank and 50 apiece for Friends of the James and public school.
Exactly that.
all right, so the motion, official motion is that donation should be 100 for Central Virginia Food Bank, 50 for Friends of the James, and 50 for Chesterfield Schools, if that's. Anybody second the motion? Frank has said the motion has been second. All in favor, raise your hands. Even though you guys on, okay, anybody opposed to it? Richard, are you opposed to it?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Didn't hear the,
You just frozen down, frozen on two. So the motion is carried. Okay, guys, last business thing.
but before we go on though, as far as the Chesterfield County schools, can somebody give me the, I guess, a link, an address to send that to as far as the
Well, yeah,
photography
Anita's
program?
going to follow up on that and get back to you.
Who's that, Anita?
Anita, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, now it's time to finalize the vote for next year's officers. You know, as I said before, it truly has been an honor and a pleasure for me to be president of this club for the last 3 years. We had our last, well, when I took it in January, how long ago was it? 2019. In March of 2019, we had our last live meeting for next 25 months. And then this year we've circled back and we're having these hybrid meetings, which is really, really good because it gives people a chance to either come in live or, if that's something they don't want to do or it's not possible, they can join on Zoom, which is really thanks to Kim for putting all that technology together. It's been a testament, not to me, but to all you guys sticking together and keeping the club going. And it's been really good. And we have a full slate of very, very capable officers for next year. And some other clubs like Camera Club of Richmond are really having a hard time getting people to step up and, and run the club. So for next year, President Peter Blankman, Vice President Tom Hennessy, Program Committee co-chairpersons, and first time I think we've had co-chairpersons, and that's awesome. But Sue Bernardo and Vicky McCullough will be the co-chairpersons. Returning is Webmaster Richard, Treasurer Ray, Secretary MJ, and Digital Director Kim. The call that I put out for votes, I got 30 out of 34, and not to embarrass anybody, but this could have been my fault. Maybe I didn't see the vote, or maybe you just forgot to vote, but I'll just, two people who are here who I did not have votes for are Linda Redmond and Bill Redhurst. So guys, do you want to vote now? Linda, do you want to vote now?
I sent you an email that I approved of all of the
Okay, fine.
candidates.
And like I said, it might have been my fault that I just didn't see it somehow. That's great. And Bill?
Yes, I vote for all.
All right, cool. So I got 32 yes votes. You said out of 34 members, which is obviously a quorum, and the vote carries, and congratulations to all of you all.
I want to know whether Peter voted no or what.
Well, Peter's email to me was, oh God, if nominated, I will not, I should have remembered, if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve, which was my reaction 3 years ago. But, of course, I know everybody, all the new board members, and the returning board members. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to still be an active member of the club, of course. So I'm looking forward to what comes next year. That being the only business that I have, is anybody else before we move into the program? Does anybody have anything else they'd like to say? Okay, next month's meeting will be back in Tuckahoe?
Yes.
Okay, so next month, Tuckahoe. If you can get to Tuckahoe before the end of the month, Anita, you want to tell us about the program, or I don't know,
Oh,
Patricia.
Well, we have an exhibit hanging. We have at the beginning of the month, and we're on the first and second floor, so you need to go by and see it. It'll be coming down at the end of the month.
And it's really awesome.
It is.
Exhibition. Members contributed to that, do you remember?
I was just hanging. I don't know.
You're just hanging.
I don't know.
Section end of the month. You mean the end of November?
Yeah, in November, yeah. I'll be there until the end of November. I have to get it out. Something else will go up in December, so. But it's a really nice show. It's essentially the only print show we do during the year. Maybe we can pick that up and do a couple more next year. It just looks really, really good. Right, yeah.
And there's still the show going on at the main library that some of the members are.
Okay, so there's a show at the main library
Main library
that some of our members have
program.
photographs on exhibit. Yeah, I mean, to me, I do almost everything I do with the idea that it's going to be free. Even though we are the Richmond Digital Photo Club, we can still make that transition and print things. And you've got, some members here who are experienced in printing, and if you haven't done it and you want to do it, even if it's just for yourself, reach out to us. We'll help you get that done.
I want to, Jay, when is that exhibit over?
It's over on the at the end of November.
At the end of November.
Yes. I think we take it down on the 29th.
And what's the name of the organization? I forgot.
F-22.
22.
That's 22.
Which is
F-22s.
F-22.
It's like the
It's like a third of the F-60 or a fourth of the F-64. Is that good? I never heard of that movie. It's interesting.
it's the name the group came up with. So
That's interesting.
Is
Okay.
that the Richmond Main Library?
yes,
Okay, down on Franklin.
oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I guess they're I didn't realize, but I guess there are two other galleries in that main library,
Yeah,
downstairs
there's
and
three galleries on the main level. One in the foyer as you walk in, and the middle one, and the back one, which is the big one, then there's one upstairs. Yeah, the woman who's in charge of that room is she's a sweetheart. She's really passionate about having a lot of work. Anything else? Okay, Frank, I think you're up to introducing yourself.
Ed, before you go though, how are we going, I mean, as far as the treasurer and helping to finance, or whatever I need to pay toward whatever we're gonna do for Christmas, or let's say the holiday event at the Tuckahoe next month, what are our plans for that? Committee's gonna talk about this?
Figure that out, right? We just had an email going around about what to do for next month, so I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna, I
Okay,
think, yeah, so we'll all get together and talk about it,
okay,
and, make this, Tom, you can join in and we'll have, a meeting and talk about what to do. It'll be kind of like a transition meeting. Transition celebration. Into the new
Okay.
year. So this month we have as our speaker, and for guests, a lot of times we'll have somebody come up and talk about something. Usually it's photography related. Sometimes that person is not a member, sometimes the person is a member. This month, we have Frank Mercado, who's a member of RDPC, first year member of RDPC, who has a lot of experience in a lot of areas relating to art and photography. And Frank, your topic is IA, right? AI, artificial intelligence and
art.
art.
Good morning, everyone. See if I can get this thing. See that? Again, I'm Frank Mercado, and I'm a relatively new member. I'm really glad to be here. My topic this morning, as you can see, is artificial intelligence, and I refer to it as an inflection point in art, and I'll say more about what the heck that means. But first, a little bit about me. I have, like all of you, been involved with photography for a long, long time. Again, the evidence is clear. But like most of you, I started off just with a simple camera with the aim of just recording the life and times of a growing family. But I came to appreciate photography for itself, and so I started taking classes, as I'm sure many of you did. And when I retired at the end of 2009, I decided to really delve into the subject a little bit more, and so I actually went back to get another degree, University of Colorado in Denver, and I received a degree in fine arts with emphasis on photography, and that got me interested in all aspects of art. Obviously, mostly photography. That was my emphasis with the degree, but I got interested in all forms of art and was introduced to a lot of different art forms. And some of that will be touched on here today. So AI and its involvement with art. First of all, I want to make clear, I'm not an expert on this subject. I'm not sure there is such a thing, because it is a relatively new and very rapidly evolving topic. But it is one that's really interesting, as I hope you'll appreciate, and one that any one of us can get involved in, especially those of us who are photographers. In fact, as I'll point out later, if in fact you use any of the modern digital tools, you are already touching base with artificial intelligence, but don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Okay, so here's what I'm going to cover today, and I do encourage questions and input from any of you who've already touched base, and I'm hoping to hear from Anita in particular, because I know she has been, and in fact, she's told us that we're going to see some AI generated art later in the program, so that's really timely and wonderful. Okay, so the topics are what I refer to an inflection point. What the heck what that means. Talk about previous inflection points in the art world. What is artificial intelligence? How is it applied to the art world? And why is artificial intelligence at an inflection point in the art world? And then just finish off with some observations, conclusions. So an inflection point is just a dramatic change in the way things have been happening, is really what it boils down to. In the world of mathematics, which was my first love, it's a point in a curve where the change in direction happens, bending point that changes the direction of flow of the function. In the business world, it's it's when the combustion engine comes into reality and the buggy whip goes out the door, right? It's a change in the way things are going to be in the financial world. And in the art world is when new technology, as I say here, forces a rethinking of what is art, who is an artist. In the Western art world, there have been any number of inflection points in the past, if you think about it, and start off with the first wave cave dwellers to put figures up on the wall, the first instance of what we would now call a human expressing something through art, through this case digital art. Another inflection point came when pigments were introduced in marble and sculpture. Before those things, the art making was far more cruder. We may not think about this too much, but there was a time when artists were not recognized as such. I mean, there were people who were created art on demand, but they weren't recognized. They weren't special people. But at some point, artists, and among the first to be so designated was Da Vinci and Michelangelo, were to be recognized as genius, and rich people would commission these specific artists to create art for them. That was a turning point. But the notion that art was only created for rich people soon gave way to the notion of art being created for the marketplace, and that was a big deal. All of a sudden, anybody could, with a little bit of money at least, buy art, because now it was being created as an item purchasable in the marketplace. You may know that perspective wasn't introduced until the early 15th century, and forever changed not only art. Not only did we have art that looked visually realistic, but it also influenced the way people actually thought about the world. Because before then, anything that was an artistic representation was ethereal and was meant to evoke, a great spiritual thoughts. With the introduction of perspectives, I mean, the world was more objective. Looking at the world was more objective, and that actually led to the movement towards scientific thinking and rational thinking, replacing mysticism. This is an instance of not only an inflection point in art, but an inflection point in society. Printmaking came up somewhere in the 15th century, and what does this mean? Well, Now suddenly art is reproducible. Before then, it was all one of a kind, and now printmaking made copies of art, and that was something very different and changed the art world. The teaching of art history and the writing about it didn't happen until the mid-16th century. First public art museums, mid-17th century. First art critics didn't show up until the early 18th century. And of course, something close to us, photography was introduced in the mid-19th century. And as it's happening now, as we'll talk about shortly, there was this, oh my gosh, this photography thing, oh, it's going to be the end of art as we know it. There now suddenly a mechanical way to create, visual art. And there was a great upset in the art world with the introduction of photography. And it took over a century for photography to be considered its own art form. There was such a resistance to the notion. And of course, digital art, and with as in our lifetime, with the introduction of digital image making, a great upset in the sense that now photography or photographic images were being introduced by the trillions on a yearly basis, something that's just become a bit overwhelming, as you and I know. It's really changed things, and the questions again arose: what is art if it can be created so easily by anyone with a cell phone? And who is an artist by virtue of the same questions? So, artificial intelligence, some definitions here. I'll go through them, but the one that I've highlighted there at the bottom is the one that I'm going to follow up on, because I think it's the one that most closely aligns with the art making world. In the simplest form, artificial intelligence is the field that combines computer science and robust data set, that is databases, to enable problem solving. In this general definition, AI is applied to any number of things, and you probably read about some of them. AI is being applied in the financial world enormously. Businesses rely on AI to help them make business decisions. AI is involved in farming. When's the best time to feed the cows, and what's the best combination of feed for the cows, given that water is becoming a more precious thing. AI is being involved in all of these kinds of issues. In the art world, what it means is that computer systems, and I say computer systems because it generally involves a large number of computers and massive storage and databases and sophisticated software. And these systems are being fed millions upon millions examples of art, with each example being categorized in every possible way. And this system is then being trained to understand all the nouns and verbs of art making. Let's go into that a bit. So here are two photographic art images, one by the now recently deceased Jerry Olsman. You probably know or recognize his artwork, and one by another current artist, Mike David. And looking at this image is, how many ways do you think you could describe these images if you thought about it? How many different ways? Let's take the Olsman image there on the left. What you might say? Clouds, hills, black and white, hands, surrealistic, involves trees, water. You could go on and on and on if you thought about it. The image on the right, even more so. Pebbled road, cobblestone roads, potted plants, restaurants, evening light. You go on and on and on if you thought about it. And in the AI system, this is precisely how these artworks are described, any number of ways. So the computer systems get to know art by these descriptors. See why that comes into play. And these are just more images that again, current images, upper left there by one of my favorite photographers, Gary Winogrand, a street photographer, great renown, of course. You F-22 people might not recognize the F-64 people there, Ansel Adams there up top right. But again, you think about how many ways you could describe these images, literally hundreds, maybe thousands of ways if you really got really nitty gritty about it. That's precisely how these images are described to these systems so that they know art this way. So let me identify a specific AI, or probably the one that's most well known right now, but certainly not the only one, as we'll see. Called DALL-E, and it's sort of a play on words. The famous surrealistic painter DALL-E now been turned into. It's a combination of his name and who's that Disney character, that little robot?
Wally.
Yes, yes, exactly. Wally. So it's a combination of DALL-E and Wally, art and a robot. So DALL-E is an open project, meaning it's done not as commercial basis by a bunch of volunteer software people around the world to create the software system and AI. It is specifically focused on visual art. It was initially access to it was additionally limited to invited users. It's now open to all. So each and every one of you can access DALL-E and other AIs, which we'll see. And if you want to, just Google access to DALL-E and get links and just, as I say, follow the yellow brick road, create your own account and start creating away with. And the way it works is that you provide DALL-E, once you have an account, log in, you provide a text description of the image you would like it to create. And it will respond with 3 or 4 images in response to your text description. Again, let me go into that in a little bit of detail. As I had previously shown you, this is an iconic Gary Winogrand photo, one of his most famous. It's titled Histrionics on Park Bench, 1975. It's really an interesting image. He was famous for these kinds of images on the streets of New York and Los Angeles and elsewhere. A lot going on in this image. And again, if you were to try to describe it, you could really have a field day with all the things that are going on there. Well, here's what I did. I gave DALL-E this text message, this text string. Photo in the style of Gary Winogrand, teenage girls in summer dresses sitting on a park bench. And this is what DALL-E came back with. Now, there's something you probably notice right off the bat, especially from that young girl on the far right, and hardly looks human. We'll talk more about that. But clearly it's in the image of Gary Winogrand. So right away you see that DALL-E recognized Winogrand style images. And it understood, park bench and summer dresses and so forth. And so this is, I think, aside from the fact that the humans don't look terribly human, a topic I'll touch on again a little bit more. It's clear that DALL-E recognized most of the nouns and verbs in my text message. I wondered about why the face was so distorted, and I have some thoughts on that. But again, if Anita has any thoughts on it, I'll certainly like to hear it, because I'm no expert, but I do have some information. So I simplified the string. I said just photo of people sitting down on the park bench, and this is what DALL-E came back with. You can see it looks far more realistic in terms of the humans, although no faces are shown. I suspect, but don't know, that part of the reason is that now that DALL-E is open to the public, if you mention a specific artist like I did with Gary Winogrand, I suspect that it's got some filters in there where it does not want to create an image that could be confused with a true winograph photograph that might lead to copyright issues and so forth. I don't think that's the only reason the faces were distorted, but I think it may be one of them. It turns out to be a failing of a lot of the AI's facial features, but not all of them, as you'll see. Here is, I mentioned that I've gotten into digital painting in the last couple of years. It was kind of a reaction to COVID and being stuck indoors. So this is one of them. It's called, I call it Gone with the Wind. And you see it in the foreground is an old Dutch windmill that's gone to pot, and in the background you see modern wind turbines and a modern city in the background. Well, I said, I wonder what Dali would do. Well, actually, I had sent this image to my son, who did have access to a Dali account before I did. He had one of his private ones, and he fed it the line, an oil painting of an old broken Dutch windmill in the foreground and 3 modern white wind turbines in the distance during sunset. And this is what it came up with. And so again, this just reinforces what I want to reinforce with you is the notion that what DALL-E is now been fed all these nouns and verbs and can dig into its vast database of imagery and pick out pieces and try and create images that satisfy that text string. That's what it does. And that's a fairly amazing job in most circumstances. As I mentioned earlier, DALL-E is not the only art AI. There are a bunch of them and more coming every day. So here's a list of them that you might find if you did a search. This one is called Crayon. The play on words. It's formerly called DALL-E Mini. Stable Fusion and its variants, Stream Studio and Pixel AI, are very commonly be referenced if you do searches. Midjourney, which I think is what Anita has been involved in. We'll see her imagery soon. Something that Google is into, something called Imagen, Night Cafe, Glide. There are a whole bunch of systems that are called GAN systems. It's not the name of the AI, but it's a category of art AIs called GANs, Generative Adversarial Network. Doesn't matter what all that means. Just there's a bunch more of them. Something called Wombo Green, Starry AI, and more and more.
Frank, I have a quick question.
Sure.
The previous image that you showed, if you printed that on your own private printer or that one, and could you sell it? I mean, use copyright.
We're gonna get into that. That's a great question. Great question.
Frank, I want to comment. If you go back to the list of if you want to dip your toes in this, and I do have one example, I've got some AI examples. Night Cafe is really easy to use. Midjourney is not really easy to use. But if you just want to dip in a little bit, that Night Cafe, that was one of the first ones I went to. Very simple.
You have it. And I do note that not all of these have open public access. Some of them are still, you have to sort of ask permission to get involved. There's also a DALL-E 2 out there. Actually, yeah, DALL-E is not DALL-E 2. Actually, there's a fourth one. Did you reason?
No. It's not your problem.
Yes.
Those that said Midjourney is not really easy. I mean, Midjourney, I can say you can produce images in Midjourney, but I think getting.
And Anita has. I don't know if these are the ones you're going to show, but Anita was kind enough to send me some results of work she's done. And are these going to be? I don't know. Steal your thunder.
Yeah, it's fine.
These are
within Midjourney, they call them prompts.
These are the text strings that you provide, and it based on the text string, it tries to create something based on its knowledge of all the artwork that it's been fed. So here are two wonderful pieces.
So the pictures, I said the one with the, on the black and white one, when the prompt, I have walking down the sidewalk with umbrellas. My vision was to have people holding umbrellas.
Not good. Oh, but-
You know.
And that is one of the classic things about these AIs. I mean, there are nuances to the English language that we accept as clear, but the AIs are very literal. And one of the things that I'll allude to later on, the prompt making, this, the creation of these texts may be the artistic element. And maybe how humans contribute to art making is coming up with the right text string, the right prompt.
And I will add, one thing that I've done is go through and look at other people's images, because everybody kind of posts in a public place. I think you can get private rooms, but I haven't figured it out now. But you can look at people's images and read their prompts, and I've looked and said, okay, I like the lighting there. So I picked up that cinematic too. So you can pick up different words. If you see an image you like, you kind of hope that, and you put it into your prompt, it's gonna, give it that.
Right.
And you can just take one programs that.
Well, the Chinese are coming up with their own art AI programs, and I didn't list it primarily because already there's concern about utilizing an official Chinese software program on a U.S. computer, but yeah, I'm sure that there'll be other languages soon. AJ?
Yeah, right. I had to step out for a minute, so I might have missed something. But I'm kind of curious, these two works by Anita are amazing.
And I can't take any credit. I mean, that's an interesting, it's like, where do you really start to take credit for it?
And we're gonna
More in the kimono a little bit, so, but the other one, I mean, that's pretty much straight AI.
So I guess the question is, what are these classified as? Are they considered photographs?
welcome to the
Digital art.
welcome to the what I call the angst and the lure of art AI, and it is why I believe that we're at an inflection point in the art world, because of those questions, exactly like that, the questions about copyright, who owns this stuff, what is your contribution? Look at, these are titles of articles that have been written on the internet. I didn't provide the URL because there are so many of them. Most of these were taken from a website called Medium, which you have to be a member and pay to do. So there's no point in me providing you with a URL unless you're a member. You can't access them anyway. But it's the titles that tell you what's going on, what people are thinking, what people are worried about, what they're happy about. Titles like the future of photography given AI, art is dead, long live art. DALL-E will disrupt art deeper than photography did. I wish I were Van Gogh, anything is possible. Is AI redefining art for artists? DALL-E is bad news for artists. The death of photography and the digital afterlife. Why DALL-E will not steal my job as an illustrator. Someone defiantly argues. Well, I wish him luck. There's three of those I've highlighted because I'll go into a little bit more detail. But you can see from these articles the concerns that have been brought up, and certainly the question about who owns the art, what is the contribution, how do you define artists in the light of it? And it's an interesting question. Anita had sent me a question, an article about copyright, and there's more of that coming out every day. There was one I saw this morning. There was in the U.S. copyright law, there is a statement that says copyright is available and automatically provided to anyone who creates something. artistic, I guess. Or acts, written word, visual art, anything of that nature. But there is a phrase in the copyright law that says created by a human. And so we did go, oh, well, if it's created by an AI, then it's not copyrightable. And there are others who argue that your prompt, your text string is the human contribution to the art making. Others who argue that so long as you modify the output from the AI in any fashion, as I think Anita said, she has in some cases, as soon as you make a modification to it, make a tweak to the color, or maybe you take that distorted face and make it more human or something of that nature, or eliminate something in the background or add something in the foreground. Now that piece becomes yours and you can now copyright it.
But how would you know? If I'm viewing Anita's work, which is great, how would I know it's generated by AI? Right?
Well,
That the first read thing when finance companies, how would the judges know?
well, I'll ask you a question. If you take a photograph and then apply a Photoshop filter to it, and that'll make it look like a watercolor, and you put, and you put it up on the wall somewhere and for sale. If you don't identify it as being a photograph and has been modified by a filter, how would anybody know? It's the world we live in, and and there are issues that will be resolved over time, or one way or another, life will go on, and we'll come up to some agreement about how we're going to deal with digital art, how we're going to deal with AI art, and it's still evolving.
I have a photo friend in Santa Fe that is working online, and she kind of got me into Midjourney. I saw what she was doing. Anyway, they're having their, an all AI art exhibit in Santa Fe now. So I mean, I think maybe that would be a good place to go, because it's certainly not photography. It's not,
Right.
it's its own animal.
You may know, many of you may know, or even have accounts on Flickr. Maybe not, maybe Flickr's dead, but there is a large photo repository, millions of users called Flickr. And they now have a special section for heavily photoshopped and AI modified art. It's just the way the world is going. And now that entire section is called that way, labeled, categorized that way. So if you go there, you're seeing AI influenced art, but that sort of thing is going to become more common, and it's not completely resolved. And it's one of the issues that we'll look at just a little bit more.
Frank,
Yes.
when the young gentleman was being railroaded straight to jail for supposedly killing someone in cold blood, based upon the video that was shown to the court and the judge, until someone leaked the fact that here's the real copy, and the gentleman was exonerated.
Well, that's right. What's being alluded to here is that the same technology is applied to video as well as photographs. And fake videos are now becoming so hard to decipher. It really takes some expertise to determine that. Well, you've probably seen your favorite politician saying awful things. The mouth is moving, words are coming out, and it's all fake, or certainly can be. Can be fake. It's an interesting world we're coming into. Let me take a look at some of these three that are highlighted in a little more detail. This question is: he used AI for Midjourney to win a fine arts prize. Did he cheat? So here is the art. There's the title there in italics. I can't probably misbangle this pronunciation. So the artist or the prompter, his name is Jason Allen, and he won first prize at the Colorado State Fair's Fine Arts Competition. It was in the category of digitally manipulated photography. Well, there's no photography involved in this image at all. He inputted a prompt to Mid-Journey, worked on that prompt over and over and over again until Mid-Journey finally created something that he really, really liked. And it turned out that the judges, not only what it was, really, really, really liked it as well and gave him first prize. And as I say down there at the right, the judge thought it was a striking piece that evoked Renaissance art, but critics have compared it to entering a marathon and driving a Lamborghini to the finish line. Was it fair? Well, that's where we're at nowadays. And it'll eventually all settle out, just as photography eventually settled out when it was first introduced to their world. It's a big upset right now. It's a lot of things are evolving quickly. It'll all still set out. This is another article. AI cannot create any image in seconds, bringing wonder and danger. The danger being the kind of thing that was alluded to here. Fake imagery. That image of that young lad there in the middle left, that human does not exist. That is an artificial image. That is not a real person. That is not a real cow. That's not a real young lady in the upper right corner. None of these are true photographs, and yet some of them look completely realistic. No harm, no foul in doing this here, but then you can imagine that in the wrong hands, some nefarious things could happen. So it's the wonder and the danger, and that was what was being alluded to here. And if I couldn't generate, come up with a text that generated a human-looking young lady, well, somebody did. That is not a real person. That was generated by one of those scans that I alluded to earlier. But she is a threat, again, this is.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm very confused, but if two people go to the same source and type in the exact same description, will you get an extent?
The answer is no. I have an example of that.
Okay, that's sorry.
There's some randomness involved there. And again, I'm probably speaking well out beyond my laws, but my guess is that the level of, there probably is some level of expertise in prompt making or text making that could come close, or maybe maybe even identical, but for you and I, probably not. It will be a random element with the strings that we would use. It's the very nature of the beast, because the AI systems, there's an element of randomness just built in. It's going out to thousands, maybe millions of imagery, picking out pieces and putting them together.
That piece was generated in almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
2019. Think how far the AI has gone in 3 years. It's true.
And so as it alludes there, these kind of things raise big questions in media, the law, copyrights and issues, so forth. So I'm coming to a conclusion here. Observations. I think for you and I, it turns out, as I said earlier, if you're in fact you're using modern photographic editors, you're already dabbling in AI, whether you know it or not. Photoshop is now becoming more and more infused with AI. Some of it's labeled. The next generation of Photoshop, I've seen articles about the not even quite beta versions of Photoshop that are out there. And they're going to be very heavy AI influenced. We're going to be able to do amazing things, but again, the question will be, is it still photography after you're done?
I think maybe I can differentiate a little bit about what is available now, for example, in Photoshop or Topaz or others, compared to Mid-Journey and things like that. Well, when I put a photo into my computer, a photo that I've taken into my computer, and I use Photoshop or Topaz or any other things, what I'm doing is I'm making specific changes to something that I've created. I'm enhancing it in some way. Whereas something like Mid-Journey creates something from the ground up. There's no, it's wrong to say there's no original work in it, because I think the prompts may be considered original work, but there's no original art, in it that it's starting with, and then maybe making some tweaks, like using Topaz denoise to take out noise, or Topaz sharpening to sharpen.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true in the way you describe it. As it turns out, there are AI systems where you feed it imagery. And it enhances the imagery in some fashion. And so, if you took that art image of maybe a portrait or something, you could feed that image to some of these AIs and they will do things to them, and if you like what it did, now what, is it? So yes, I mean, if you're just tweaking something or maybe replacing the sky, as Photoshop can do, or doing a content aware fill, or opening eyes that were closed, we're doing all that now, and all of that is actually influenced by AI, but you can still rightly claim that this is basically my image. But there are other things that you can do, and they'll go beyond the photograph in some fashion. And so where photo pixels end and software pixels, emerge, and at what point is it no longer a photograph? I don't have an answer to that, but those are the kinds of questions that we can have. So for you and I think there's going to be a little impact there, a little impact in the sense of that all these issues are kind of, in some sense, who cares? It's still my art. You and I think, create our imagery for the enjoyment of I made this, and we still want to lay claim to it, and we'll use AI, in the fashion that Ed just described. But for others, it's a real threat, I think. If you're a professional image maker, it's going to be a threat to certain image. If you're a company that goes to human artists to create graphic art for a poster or something, that's going to be a tough job to hold on to. It's going to be the guy that makes the buggy whips now that combustion engines are around. There'll still be a few that survive because they're really, really good, but a lot of marginal human artists are going to lose their job, because now these AIs can create fantastic graphic imagery from a text prompt. So it's going to be, and as we alluded to earlier, deep fakes are already a serious social danger. I conclude here. I'm waiting for this moment. So at this latest inflection point, once again, we have to pose the question: what is art? Who is an artist? Why do we value art? What is it? What does it mean to me? And so forth and so forth. And it's here. So in the conclusion really is AI and art, for better or for worse, here it is. It's not going to go away. And for sure, things will never be the same. So with that, I conclude.
One observation, if I might, about value. So, and this is, my impression of how collectors and purchasers of art value a painting compared to a photograph. It still seems, even after 160 some odd years, that the photograph is viewed as being less valuable than something that is created using paint, for example.
One of a kind thing.
One of the kind type of stuff. Sure. And I'm kind of wondering, as AI becomes more available, and it will become more ubiquitous in art and whatever, how that will be valued in the marketplace, and will it make actual art more valuable, even more valuable than it is today, because it's not done by a computer in one way or another. Yeah, and it's a complicated topic, and in any case, because as I think I allude to here, there may be a new profession that comes about, a professional AI prompter.
And what I'm alluding to here is that there is some art. Have you, any of you heard of a graffiti artist called Banksy?
Yeah.
Well, okay, you look at his art, I mean, as visual art, it's interesting, but it's not fabulous. It's not, you know, it's not Da Vinci, it's not Michelangelo. But what has happened over time is that the artist has become renowned. And so his art, if it is his, I don't know, Banksy is kind of a mysterious person. It's valuable because of who created it. And that kind of value by virtue of the artist, not necessarily the created artifact, can make something valuable. So it could be someday there'll be a famous AI prompter and it's, you know, AI art by, you know, by Mary Smith. And, oh, it's a Mary Smith.
It's all in marketing, man. It's all in marketing.
It's a clear thing, but in general, I absolutely agree with you. One of a kind art, I think, will always have a preeminent place in the marketplace over art that can be reproduced, and that was, of course, the thing that photography battled with for years, and probably still does in that respect. If any of us ever tried to sell art, you know that if it's next to an oil painting, you know that oil painting is going to go for much more in all likelihood, unless you have a famous name. So with that, let me get off the stage.
Well, all right, before we let Frank sit down, are any questions from the Zoom room? No, okay. Frank, thank you, sir.
Richard has a question.
Oh, Richard.
You did.
All right, Richard, your lip syncing, your lip reading is not one of my many talents. Good. You need to unmute yourself, Richard. In the bottom left-hand corner, there should be a microphone that you click and it unmutes. Or press your space bar. There you go.
Yeah, I tried the space bar and it didn't work for some reason. Anyway, I was just trying to thank Frank for a very interesting and informative discussion. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Oil painting value is based upon one thing. I have it and you don't.
Yes.
And the whole value is just based upon it. And photographers try and match that to 15
Right.
or 1 of 10 or, you know, but
Because
the art world is only on I have it and you don't.
yeah, but what about, you know, effect, what would we call it, the virtual,
The AI thing.
not the AI paintings, but the virtual art.
I'm curious. It was mentioned if you give the same prompts.
Yeah.
Does the same, you know, who could track through and find out?
I mean, I'll give an example. I copied somebody's mom because I was curious
But it-
and put it in word for word, space for space, and it wasn't anything.
Was it so different? I mean, I would have
So I'm not here and I can tell you what I saw, and what I got.
suspected it would be different, just because it's just a massive computer. And
I mean, is it even trackable? I mean, you can, if you took a picture of 14 prompts. And then what comes up, you take a detailed photo of that, and then you put that in. Is there a tracking system on?
It might be based
Who
on
created
account.
that?
Your account is different from your friends or whatever you.
How many people or how many systems worked on it, or where do all those pieces come from?
I'm guessing their database is growing every day.
Well, and I think their database, I don't know what I'm talking about, that's the truth. But I work on bots, I don't know what a bot is, but I think that they're spaced out on different computers. So it might be the path that your computer, you know, your ISP or whatever sends you out to, that what's available at that site as opposed to somewhere else, and I made that up. But I mean, this sounds.
If you were tweaking a prompt. So I made a prompt and I put it out there and I saw the picture that was created. And I said, no, I want this changed just a little bit, and so I'm tweaking my prompt with maybe one word. Or an ly at the end of a word as opposed to whatever it was before. Does the same picture with a little bit of change come back, or is it a completely different picture?
I'll give you a partial answer.
Okay,
All right, you're able to go in to your bucket of images that you have, and your prompt is there. Midjourney, which I work in, has just started a new offering called Remix, which means you can go in and change the prompt on that particular one. I haven't figured out how to deal with it. But apparently there's a way, because if you take that, if you make changes to the same prompt and put it in a different start point, I think you'll end up with something different.
You also have to remember that I alluded to the fact that these systems ingest thousands, millions of imagery. It doesn't stop. It's not like you fix the database for all time. Those images are being fed over and over again. At any given prompt, at any given time, when it tries to take a clue from the noun or the verb in your prompt, there's always new imagery that will match that prompt, that noun or that verb, and you could draw a different one this time than what it did a second ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna build. What is it out there, their data?
Okay,
I was just gonna suggest that we go straight into Anita's images, because I really like to see the work that she's done with it.
okay, I'm good.
That sounds like a photo challenge.
Yeah, let's all give Frank a hand there for such a great presentation. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
And see what we get.
Our curiosity has now been piqued.
Do these, Dolly or the Richard, the cost maybe to create? Oh, yeah.
Just learn to take.
I'm still working on it. Still working on taking a good picture of my own. I can't figure out myself doing it.
Measuring, you get X number of parade, and then it's subscribe, and, you know.
That's my dollars too.
Okay, $10 a month is what I pay, and you can take them more to get faster or time on there, but
Apple says you can start with one of your own photographs,
I can, yeah.
but I'm definitely change.
Oh, okay.
That way, it's like anywhere where they would. Doesn't look that much different. I need to look through that one.
Anita, that's gorgeous.
The problem on this one was something about friends at Steve. And I don't know what's going on with the moon, it had its own thoughts. All right, in Midjourney, if you put in your prompt, it returns with 4 images. And they return as pings, you have to, I'm working in the world of gigapixel, you know, to blow stuff up to get it to a decent size. But anyway, return to 4. And you can make variations on all 4, one at a time, or one of them. So I made a variation on this, which I think is the next picture. Okay, and so I like the base of the first picture, but I like the moon in this one. So next picture into a composite. And I got a better moon in that. So, I mean, that's where you go in and change a little bit of things, but.
That's when you can copyright.
But
You can edit what you get.
absolutely, yes, yes.
So it's just pixels. It's like.
How large is the image?
It's,
How large is the file size?
it's small to start with. And as I said, I'm using Topaz gigapixel to blow things up. With that, so anyway, as I said, the returns, and I've got some mistakes in here, I'll show you too, things that just turned out really odd. But you did this in Photoshop to combine, or? I didn't even know that, you know.
You can find your work.
You know what, I don't show this, and this is the first time it's been seen, except for people I've done it to, because I have a real ownership issue. I mean, I don't think, now, Facebook has a mid-journey group, and I've posted on there. I don't get a lot of love, because it's mostly younger people doing, dystopian robots and stuff. And I just discovered that, Instagram has a lot of mid-journey posting, and maybe I'll go over there, but I'm too, you know, it's like Facebook is enough for me, so I'm staying there for now. So, no, I mean, this is just like, I'm having fun with this right now.
Did your initials prompt have a moon in
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Mhm. This was supposed to be, friends around a campfire, in a lodge. I don't know where the lodge went. And this was a variation on what originally came up. And so did this, and the next one, I took it to black and white. You know, so you kind of get the photo excitement of, okay, you know, is this what's gonna look better, black and white or color? That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, that was the one that, Frank had shown.
And if you had just changed the word with to carry, they would have been holding the umbrellas up.
Probably, you know, I think I tried, and I don't think I was still successful. This was from Night Cafe. It was just, you know, one of the very first ones I did. I did a rabbit with a sunset and a fantasy look. You know, but Night Cafe is very simple to use. Mid-Journey, you've got to join something called Discord. Before you can, you know, which isn't a big deal, but it's like, it felt like they were stealing, you know, wanted all your information, and I was real hesitant to do that at first, but I think it's okay, you know, I'm doing it for over a month. And then you have to figure out.
I'm getting spammed from Anita's.
And then from Discord, you go, it's a program called Discord, you go into Mid-Journey from there, so it's more multi-step. So as I said, Night Cafe is a fun place to dip your toe. Now, this was, I did my prompt, it's up there. This is a screenshot. Female model walking a tiger on a leash on sidewalk in Manhattan, photorealistic. And I mean, if you look at the bottom right, she's got a tiger face. You just never quite know what you're gonna get. And I guess maybe thinking about it on a database, maybe you don't have anything to draw on for a tiger on a leash. And I am Shorty on there. I've never been Shorty in my life, but I didn't want to put my real name. Again, that's the geisha that I had done. That was one of the first ones I did. I need to get back to the more sketchy kind of nice. I did, the faces are problematic. I did have to work on the face to smooth it out. This was supposed to be a goldfish in a bowl, a fat goldfish in a bowl. With, you know, in the background with blue sky and clouds, and I thought it would put it in a house or a truck, you know, not just put it in the sky. But you can see, it's like, what is this? So you just don't know what you're gonna get. It's interesting.
The flying goldfish.
All right, this was the prompt that I stole, and what the person had, they looked like playing cards. And I thought that looked interesting. He had pinup witch, tarot card style, intricate details, light from behind. He had faces on cards. This is what I got back. All right, and I put in there, see how odd the back looks?
Yeah, it's fun.
You know, it's like, what's wrong with the musculature there? The next one, I went in and smoothed out the back, so that worked out. It looks like I might have cropped it too. And we probably did some lightroom adjustments or topaz adjustments on it for color. And then again, next one I put it to black and white because I thought it worked well with all the details. And this was right around Halloween, so that was fun to do then. This was a hot air balloon over the Swiss Alps snow-capped mountain. cinematic lighting. You know, it's just, I think it's pretty, there's something pretty amazing about it. This was a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, and this is what I got back. So, you hit some, you miss some. This was a variation on the person walking the tiger, and it had like a leash coming out from behind it. But I put her in a red dress, and Midjourney takes photo terms. I've used wide angle on this, so any photo terms, either if you talk about depth of field or wide angle or close up, it accepts all those, and will make changes on photo terms.
Anita, I noticed a lot of these photographs have essentially bilateral symmetry. And I'm wondering if you could change that with a bird, or if it automatically comes out with something centralized and then the peripherals.
Good question. I'm actually you're right about your observation, because the hot air balloon, I did crop that one. It kept on coming up in the center, and I wanted it on a side, and I put in rule of thirds. I reprinted it, and it still wasn't returning what I wanted. And I bet there's a way, and I don't know. And this prompt was a cowboy leaning against a fence at sunset. And the original moon was on the far left, but it looked so alien that I decided to make it an alien cowboy. So I cloned over the two moons to make an alien scene. And I think that's it. But anyway, I'm having fun doing it. And it's not photography, but you still use your software skill set.
Really needed. Yeah, thank you.
Kim, we're going into photo share?
Sure.
For the benefit of our guests, every month we do what we call photo share, which is simply members showing their photographs, and we kind of talk with them. It's not a critique, it's not an evaluation, it's not a contest, but it's merely a friendly discussion if one is offered.
Right.
It's a picture.
But did you take it, or was it AI generated?
I actually took this one. This was at, I forget the name of that park, Kim. It's a park near
And the one in Charlottesville,
yeah. It's
person's name and.
something green. Somebody Green
Yeah.
Park. Anyway, it's a park near the airport in Charlottesville. We had a meetup there. This is one of the pictures I took from the park.
Is that a panorama, or is
No,
that just
it's-
one shot?
It was a wide angle shot. It's just one shot. And that same day, we went up to Carter Mountain Orchard, and I took that picture of their flowering shrub hedge or whatever it is, looking out over Charlottesville. This was at Maymont and the Japanese Garden. And I took that last Wednesday. If you look in the corner by the stone walkway across the pond, there's a blue heron sitting there. Yeah, right there. I was playing around one day a couple of years ago, since we were talking about motion. I had this globe, and I give it a spin and took a picture and let it catch the blur of the globe spinning.
You got the cut.
Yeah. Another one I took was just showing the motion of the water spray out at Deep Run Park.
It was your intention to freeze the water or to kind of blur it a little bit?
On that one, I was blurring it a little bit. I wasn't taking it a real, it was kind of an overcast day. I wasn't using a real high shutter speed.
You ever put a polarizer underneath those?
I use polarizer sometimes. I don't know if I had one on that day or not. I don't believe I did. This was at Short Pump Park one day. I just took a picture of some kids on the splash pad. And this is on a hike to Linville Falls down in North Carolina. I took this a few days ago at the VMFA. They have the guitars and art exhibit going on, and they set up this room. They had it set up called the Richmond sessions. So I took a picture with my iPhone through the window. This is a relay race. This is from a couple years ago. The one getting ready to take the baton is my grandson. So I like that shot because the kid that's handing off the baton's feet aren't on the ground.
Good motion shot for sure.
That's mine. I took that about 3 years ago. That was my grandson. He was almost 2 years old. And it was the very first trip down to the Outer Banks. And this was on Jockey's Ridge. And he was just running free. And I thought that was a good shot of motion.
Looks like he could be taking a baton from somebody invisible.
This was this past June in Shenandoah. That's the Upper Doyles River Falls. And I did about a half-second exposure to get the water flowing. And that was in October, the end of October, down at the Outer Banks. I didn't get a single sunrise. It was cloudy every morning. And the last morning I went down and I just played around. You know, the sun didn't come up and I just played around with some long exposures and some camera movement. And here's another one that looks really washed out here, but that was basically about a half a second moving the camera horizontally on the beach. This was on Blue Ridge Parkway back in October. I just took the shot through the windshield of the car, and then I added the motion in Topaz.
Are the skid marks on the road later on?
No. This is when I took down the Outer Banks. I got 2 sunsets, and this one had almost no clouds to it. And This one was about a 5-second exposure, and then I zoomed during the exposure to get that effect, which I thought was good. And then this one was not zoomed during the exposure, but I added that effect afterwards in topaz, just to try to see.
When you zoom the lens, Tom, it didn't affect anything except the.
Yeah, it was a 5-second exposure, and I waited till I had a couple seconds, and then I just did that. It's a fun thing to do out at Louis Gigner during the during Garden Fest. Done a lot of that.
Was it handheld or was it?
No, that was on front.
Was it affects differently if you go out to in and out?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably about the same. I think I usually zoom out.
Okay, so on November 5th, which was a week ago Saturday, RPMG had a meetup at Liberty Hill Park. And so, I mean, this Saturday, the weather was beautiful, the clouds were in the sky, and there were thousands of people doing 1,000 different things in Liberty Hill Park on Saturday afternoon. This was like, I think we were supposed to meet up there at 4 o'clock. This was one of the pictures I took while wandering around, just sort of down the hill, looking back towards Rockets Landing.
Yeah, I saw this on Facebook. I really like the one.
So, yeah, I did crop it a little bit.
Yeah, I really like the balance in the picture where, you have the tree and everything, on the left, the tree and the woman on the left. But the right there's a lot of space on the right, which in my mind gives this photo very balanced. I really like the way you did this too.
Yeah, I think I got this job in that tree too.
What was it?
So there's a bird in that tree too.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
I didn't see the birds though.
Yeah.
And so I was again, Liberty Hill, I was sitting on a bench there, and I decided I was just going to stay there and wait rather than walking around trying to chase photos. And so this couple was walking by and they stopped, and I wasn't ready. And so I just asked them if they would mind, coming back and standing there looking at the Lucky Strike stack, and they were agreeable. So I took a few pictures of them just kind of standing there holding hands. I didn't realize they were on the way to meet their photographer who was going to take some pre-wedding photos of them. So
That's an awesome picture there.
so that's how I ended up getting that shot.
You need to contact that couple and sell them that photo.
Particularly with in fact, not thinking about the cigarette brand, but it's a Lucky Strike. With a,
Yeah. The story is really great. Yeah.
Lucky photo of Lucky Strike. And also, one of the reasons for going to Liberty Hill Park was that the colors in I guess they're ginkgo trees. I think we're probably like a week late, but You see, there was this guy just sitting there reading his book. And then there was another couple on the grass, just talking, and, the leaves from this tree were covering the ground. So I took this photo. And again, sitting on this bench, not moving, Diane Muska was sitting next to me and we were talking, and I said, I'm just gonna stay here for a while and see what happens and not, walk around. And this guy just came riding by on his bicycle, and I took this picture. I think I added some sky highlights from this photo to that. So there's all kinds of interesting things you see, and like I said, there were thousands of people in Liberty Hill Park on the 5th of November. And this was a lady who was just kind of sitting on the steps there, waiting for the sun to set. And these trees hadn't lost all their leaves yet. And then finally, after the sun went down, I finally got up and moved so that I could get a picture looking down Main Street towards downtown, the downtown sky. But these were all from Liberty Hill on the 5th of November. So it was just a great day to go out. Yes. I think that's the last one.
Super. Nice.
I guess some of those might classify as street photography.
And these are some of the ones that was sent in to the park. And this is one of mine on motion. This was taken 2 years ago. In fact, this is the 219th digital photo I ever took.
Wow.
It was my Canon Digital Rebel that took this up in Pennsylvania at a World Outlaw Sprint car race.
You're obviously panning the shot.
Yes, yeah. Now, this is a lot later at Virginia International Raceway. And I was panning that shot too. In different camera. And that was, and this is a fast shutter. The other one was like a 100th of a second. This one is probably 1,000th of a second. This is at the Celtic Games, and I like to use heat in the air.
Yeah.
Release the caber. And this is geese running on water.
Where was that, Karen?
This was down at Dutch Gap, in the little marshy area there along the road where the observation decks are. That was taken from one of those observation decks. This is a cormorant that would had taken off, and this is a little camera movement along with the slow shutter. And yeah. Of course, this is the the train station from the Jefferson, or from the Madison building. Monroe building, what's it? Right there, 95.
Oh, the one where you go up on that platform.
Yeah, yeah, on the
Department of Education. Yeah.
These are Nancy's, okay. Nancy did, okay. Yeah, those two.
Tony Benson?
Yeah, I do it is. Big one.
Those are waiting for somebody. Had one look at Nancy and said, dinner time.
All I can say is what an ugly bird that is.
Chloe.
Oh, she got this right by accident. She told me about it. She was at Lewis Ginner, I think.
So she's in a plane.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh, yeah. That's mine. Doing a bunch of downtown stuff. From Kanawha Plaza. That's what the city looks like at 8 o'clock at night.
Is that what the fisheye, Peter?
That's a fisheye. She's one of the statues in the Women's Memorial over by the state capitol. I like the eyes and the shape of the face. Oh, this was downtown. These three guys entertaining each other with tall tales, and I just liked their faces and the fact of sitting in the park and having fun.
Looks like Santa in this.
Santa Claus.
This is the Science Museum. Woman carrying in a bunch of flowers.
Now, Peter, when you took this picture, did you see her coming like from the other side of the columns and wait for her, or was this just?
That's right. Just stood there and waited for a while.
And she just showed up.
And she showed up.
You didn't see her coming.
Oh, I had a sense she was coming. I didn't
Okay.
know where she was going to be exactly, but
Yeah.
she cooperated very nicely. Oh, that was on one of the walks down in the Canal Walk. They have a number of new wall murals, and I can't figure out that juxtaposition at all, because those are not two photographs put together. That is with the way they are, right next to each other.
Looks like that bird's following you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the cathedral with, I think that's the VCU library in the way. You get onto the campus, you can get some different angles of the cathedral.
That's cool for you.
That's also down at VCU. This is heavily cropped, but I love the yellow umbrella and then the bright umbrella against the subdued colors. Another nighttime shot from Kanawha Plaza. That's obviously the Dominion building. And I did not do anything to color. That is what it looks like.
How many seconds were you taking that? Was that long exposure on a tripod or?
Oh, yeah, that was on a tripod. I don't know, several seconds. I took a variety. But that's a great spot to go in the evening because there's one, nobody else there. And two, you get all kinds of interesting angles of downtown skyscrapers. That's not mine.
It's Ray. Ray still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. Hey, yeah, Kim, the way I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing the full picture.
This should be, what are you missing?
The light trails from the road, supposed to be motion. And maybe I've done something to it that I'm not seeing it correctly.
Oops. They're on my screen here, they're cut off a little bit, but,
Mason's picture, they do the photo share.
my menu at the bottom.
75%.
Just a little funky.
It could be me.
There's a percentage up on top. I wonder if that changes for you.
Yeah.
They good?
Penny.
Were they good?
And I can't get to those because the menu is off here. Next one.
Ray?
Yeah, I'm here. Are we back to?
This is your next photo with the.
Oh, wow. I've done something to it, Kemp. I'm only seeing your people there.
What if you?
I mean, the attendees at the meeting, as opposed to my picture.
Go up on your view and select the standard or.
View. And I'm on standard.
You got the standard view?
I do.
You're not seeing the shared screen?
I'm sorry, say again?
You don't see the shared screen? Try the.
Oh, yeah, I can see the top. I can see the top part of it now. But just not the road.
Side by side.
But at any rate, we'll go through it. I got enough of it. We can talk about it. I guess you all can see it. This is downtown, where I was attempting to take some light trails, and this is from the Manchester Bridge, the walkway that's in between the Manchester Bridge, and I was indeed using the a tripod. And this was back in December of 2017, so it's a little while back. And again, attempting to show motions. Like I say, hopefully you all can see the light trails. Yeah, I can, from where I'm sitting at least. And this is, of course, a belly dancer, again showing motion, which was the theme of the month. And this was taken at the Positive Vibe Cafe over there on Forest Hill. Back in 2018. And this is, of course, the Upper Mattaponi powwow back in May of 2017. And I really love again, the motion of the dances, but I love the colors also, the variety of colors. and a second shot from the Mattapani powwow and showing motion. And this is taken from my wife and I were on a cruise, and I'm on one of the upper decks and taking a picture of the pilot boat, and did a little research. I was just wondering what the deal is with the pilot boat, and it's my understanding that they actually come out, the pilot, as the bigger ships are coming in, the incoming ship, the pilot boat comes out, and they upload a pilot off of the little boat there onto the cruise ship to help navigate the cruise ship in. So the pilot from the pilot boat, as well as the cruise ship captain and his crew, or their crew, help navigate through the waters and all the wherewithal of the port that you're coming into. So I found that very interesting. But again, showing motion.
Yeah.
And that's the last one.
Okay.
All right, guys. Good pictures and we're ending just on time. We do, I guess we keep these rooms until like noon or something like that, and then we got to run that in the day. Thank y'all. Thanks to our guests for coming. Vera, if you're still here, you guys, thanks very much for coming in. I hope to see you again. Oh, see you next month.
Hey, Ed, be sure you extend an invitation for them to join. We need members.
Well, it's definitely coming, yes. They said we can't leave. What you've seen today is a very typical meeting. You know how things go. Sometimes they're a little different. Sometimes we'll have a demonstration. Sometimes it's a speaker like Frank did today. But it's always a lot of fun. Photo share is always a big part of it. So I hope you consider joining. We're going to have a really good year next year. All right, guys, if you want help with the chairs, okay, appreciate it.
Thank everybody for attending. It's in